Right now, just by reading that word, yawn, some part of your body is already testing the waters. Maybe your jaw twitched, maybe you're mid yawn before you even finish this sentence. You don't need to see one. You don't even need to hear one. Thinking about yawning is sometimes enough to trigger it. That's strange. If you stop and actually look at it, no other reflex works like this. You don't cough because someone mentioned coughing. You don't sneeze because you read the word sneeze. But yawning slips from one mind to another, almost like a signal broadcast on a frequency we can't consciously tune out. So before we get to why it spreads, we need to ask a stranger question first. What is a yawn even for? For decades, the assumed answer was simple. You yawn because you need oxygen, and a big breath tops up the tank. It's a tidy story. It's also been tested directly. And it doesn't hold up. Researchers have had people breathe air with extra oxygen and air with extra carbon dioxide and measured yawn rates in both. Neither changed a thing. Breathing and yawning turned out to run on separate circuits entirely. The theory with the most support instead points somewhere else. Your brain's temperature. A yawn pulls in a deep breath of cooler air while stretching the jaw wide. And that stretch increases blood flow through the face and skull. Put together, that's a small, built-in cooling cycle for the brain itself. Think of it less like refueling and more like a laptop fan kicking on the moment the processor runs a little hot. A cooler brain, the theory goes, runs more alertly, which is why yawns cluster right when you're fading, waking up, winding down, sitting through something dull. So a yawn, on its own, is a private tune-up. Nothing social about it yet. The mystery starts the moment somebody else's tune-up becomes yours too. The leading explanation for contagion has to do with a set of cells called mirror neurons. These neurons fire both when you do something and when you simply watch someone else do it, as if some part of your brain can't fully tell the difference. Brain scans back this up. Watching someone yawn lights up regions tied to empathy and to simulating other people's mental states. It's part of a wider family of behavior scientists called the chameleon effect. The same unconscious pull that makes you cross your legs like the person across from you, or pick up a friend's accent after a week together. Under this view, a yawn isn't just an action you're witnessing, it's an action some quieter part of your brain is already rehearsing as if it were its own. And the closer you feel to someone, the stronger that pull tends to be. Strangers yawning barely register. A partner or close friend yawning is almost impossible to resist. It's a tidy explanation. Empathetic brain, empathetic yawn. Except the deeper researchers have dug, the messier that tidy story has gotten. In 2017, a systematic review pulled together the existing research on contagious yawning and empathy. And the conclusion wasn't a confirmation. It was described as inconsistent and inconclusive. Then came a study out of Duke, tracking a large group of people against the usual suspects. Empathy scores, intelligence, tiredness, time of day. None of them held up as reliable predictors. The only factor that mattered at all was age. Older participants yawned contagiously, somewhat less. But even age barely explained anything. Accounting for around 8% of the variation between people, the other 92%, still unexplained. This trait is remarkably stable within a single person over time. That combination starts to sound less like a moral trait and more like something closer to being left or right-handed, something that's genuinely you, wired in early with very little to do with how much you happen to care about the people around you. So if it isn't empathy doing the driving, what's actually behind the wheel? One research team at the University of Nottingham looked in a completely different place. The primary motor cortex, the part of the brain that governs movement, not emotion. Using magnetic stimulation, they found the urge to yawn contagiously, tracked directly with how excitable that motor region was in each individual. They also found something almost comic. Trying to physically suppress a yawn didn't make the urge go away. It made it stronger. It's the same trap as being told not to think about a pink elephant. The instruction itself keeps the thing alive. Researchers have a name for reflexes that copy a stimulus almost automatically, bypassing conscious control. Echo phenomena. The same family that includes echoing someone's exact words back without meaning to. Under this framing, catching a yawn isn't a small act of empathy at all. It's closer to a flinch, a motor reflex that happens to look emotional from the outside. Neither camp has fully won. What's emerged instead is a phenomenon that seems to run on two systems at once. One emotional, one reflexive, layered on top of each other. Children reliably start catching yawns around age 4 or 5, almost precisely the window where kids begin reliably reading other people's emotional states. Chimpanzees show the same pattern. Infant chimps are completely immune to it. Juveniles start catching yawns right as their social awareness sharpens. And chimps are choosy about it. One study found they catch yawns from group mates and even from familiar humans, but not from unfamiliar chimps, and not from baboons at all. Dogs complicate the picture further. Several studies found dogs catch yawns from their owners, noticeably more than from strangers. A familiarity bias that looks a lot like an empathy signal crossing species lines entirely. But a more rigorous 2020 reanalysis, rebuilding 6 earlier dog studies from scratch, found no reliable familiarity bias at all once the data was modelled more carefully. Even parrots synchronise yawning and stretching within a flock, a species about as evolutionarily distant from primate empathy circuits as you can get, which suggests something worth sitting with. This might not be one mechanism wearing different disguises across species. It might be several separate systems that simply converge on the same visible behaviour. Less like one light switch labelled empathy, and more like several independent alarm systems that happen to sound identical from the outside. Step back far enough, and one older idea starts to look more useful than the empathy versus reflex debate suggests. Gallup's research proposes contagious yawning evolved to spread alertness through a group. One animal signals drowsiness or a dip in vigilance, and the yawn ripples outward, resetting everyone's attention at once. In that framing, a yawn spreading through a room isn't a test of who feels the most for whom. It's closer to a fire alarm wired directly into a building's speaker system. It doesn't know or care what anyone in the building is feeling. It just needs the signal to reach every room fast, with no one having to consciously decide to pass it on. Empathy, mirroring, and motor reflex might all just be the machinery evolution reused to build that alarm system. Not competing explanations, but different rooms in the same structure. So the next time a yawn jumps from a stranger on the train, or your dog, or a sentence you're simply reading, it's very likely not a referendum on how much you care. It's a very old alarm system, quietly doing the one job it was built for long before either of you learned what empathy even was.